So I wanted to share a video about some of the darker aspects of some of the cards, shall I say. I know I haven't posted for a while on here on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be honest, it's been a complicated year and a difficult time. And maybe my understanding of some of these cards may give you some insight into why I haven't prioritized this, but I'm keen to get back on track with the YouTube channel. So please, these aren't the definitions of these cards, okay? Every card has a gift. Every card has a positive meaning. I've got lots of free resources on my website. Do pop over and have a look. And I also teach, mostly weekly now on Zoom. And I keep my really low because I love teaching. But don't use these as the complete definition of these cards. I'm going to be looking here at difficult mental health and how these cards can reflect our mental health or the mental health of clients on difficult days. I do read for myself regularly, daily usually, to try and check in with my mental health so that I can know how much forgiveness, leeway I need to give myself on a daily basis. So to me, the darker side of the Eight of Swords is gaslighting, the popular term. It's a complicated term. I'm not going to try and define it particularly well here. If you think that you are being gaslit by a partner or someone in your life, do try and get support because it's very, very difficult to see clearly. My experience of gaslighting is when you start to internalize somebody, usually somebody that you respect or who is emotionally important to you, you internalize their judgments on you, and it's never for the good. And the best way to understand this is the swords here, they represent thoughts and words. Now, usually, the vast majority of the times, the Eight of Swords represents your thoughts blocking you and stopping you from doing things that you'd want to do. And a typical pattern might be, well, to do that, but I'm too old, too young, too fat, too thin, don't have enough money, etc. But they're your thoughts, they're your self-limiting critics, and most of us can usually find a way through that. When this card gets particularly dangerous is when they're not your thoughts that are creating that ring of swords around you. They are the thoughts of a loved one, maybe a boss, actually, could be a parent, could be very often a romantic partner, who is telling you that you are incapable of being loved, being successful, being independent, and you are now believing it yourself. So to me, the last and most darkest part of any emotionally abusive relationship is when you believe it yourself and you become your own abuser. I told you this would be a dark and difficult YouTube video, not my usual optimistic cheery self to, or actually I just fancied a chance to look at the darker sides of these cards because they do come up. So to me, the darkest side of the Eight of Swords is gaslighting. Five of Pentacles, nobody really likes this card, let's be really honest. Yes, most often it's just going to mean don't overspend, checks in the post if you're using this language, cut back on your spending, watch for your physical energy. Things are sort of not quite as stable as you would have hoped. But the darker side of this card, and I always think here with this chap person has got a bell around his neck, the leper's bell. He's crippled. There is a church window there, yet they don't seem to notice it. They don't seem to be able to find their way into it. The dark side of this card is not looking for help because you deserve it. I'm going to just struggle on my own, bit of emotional leper. I'm going this. Sometimes that's the right thing to do. Sometimes asking for help just, makes us feel insecure. But this card, when it's perhaps with some other more difficult cards, perhaps if you keep getting it all the time and actually your finances are okay, then it's reflecting a more inward sense of not deserving help, an emotional leper, emotionally crippled. I can't see help even when it's right in front of me. Like I say, definitely not the only meaning of this card. I'm really picking up on sort of mental health nuances here. The Five of Cups, most generally, it's going to refer to grief or sadness. It can be grief and sadness at the past, but that is impacting you right now. However, when I look at this, my eye is always drawn to the fact that the cups that are knocked over, some of them are red, some of them are green. It makes me think of anger and jealousy. And I have seen this card represent somebody who is creating drama in their life. Literally, if you like, kicking those doubts over time and time and time again, because it is where they are comfortable and it feels easier than turning around and picking up what is left in your life, the two cups behind them, and carrying on. So watch out for this card. Sometimes, just sometimes, it can be you or somebody in your life, or even a client if you're reading for other people, who is a little bit addicted to drama, who likes the attention that may having a drama filled life brings them, or maybe likes the excuses. Well, I'd love to, but my life, So it is, I often, not often, but on occasion, see this as somebody who is deliberately creating their own drama and their own trauma. Temperance. I mean, 90% of the time, this is a beautiful card to get. It is optimistic. We have those huge angel wings. Personally, it's not my favorite, but only because it usually means balance, and I find balancing my life quite difficult. But, I would say the vast majority of the time, this is a However, I know it's coming, right? We have the irises, beautiful, love irises. The site family, very much linked to narcissism and addiction. So I'm not particularly up on my Greek myths. Norse myths is far more my thing. But my understanding is that Narcissus fell in love with himself, which is where we get the concept of narcissism from. Yes, this can, with very carefully constructed cards around it, I'd have to really see other indications, but it can represent a narcissist. It can more often represent addictions, and for me, that those narcissi there, the yellow irises, are a reminder of that. To me, this is a peak experience. This is when life's balances just get right. Those days when you look back and you think, wow, that was amazing. This can also be a sort of a peak spiritual experience. Perhaps you've been meditating or doing some shamanic work or some healing work, and it just all happened. It all came together, and you're left feeling really blissful and really happy. Sometimes we seek shortcuts to those peak experience moments, often through drugs, gambling, or addiction. So, I mean, again, very much the dark side of temperance. Very, very rare that we get it, but it's there just as a warning. Perhaps if you've got it with the devil, perhaps if you've got it with the King of Cups and the Seven of Cups, or, cards, and you're thinking, I can't fit it, I can't place it, then just double check. Is it talking about addiction? So the Nine of Wands, this is a card on its darkest days that to me absolutely screams PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I think many of us, to one degree or another, are suffering with that problem. I'm not talking here about people that have been through truly traumatic events and are struggling with overwhelming flashbacks. I'm talking here about a more everyday type, where we feel where our anxiety is raised all the time, where we're hyper vigilant, where we keep expecting things to go wrong, where we keep expecting past problems to be replicated. Most often, I will see this sort of meaning of a card where somebody has started a new relationship. Their past relationship, their partner had an affair, and now they are looking for signs of an affair in their new partner. To me, that is a shade of PTSD. I'm not diagnosing, I'm just talking about the overall picture. So sometimes this means take a break. Sometimes this means get organized, put the effort in, get your ducks in a row if you like. A little bit of preparation is key. But a lot of the time with this card, it's you've done all the preparation. No, I can imagine sometimes with the Nine of Wands, all his mates around the fire having a beer, celebrating that the war is won or the battle is over. And this guy is just hanging in there. There could be one last person coming. There could be one last enemy coming over the brow of the hill. So I'm going to wait and make sure. So on its dark to me can be hypervigilance, which I connect with PTSD. And again, if you find that you're getting this card a lot, just check in with yourself. Are you expecting bad things to happen? Are you hyper aware that things could go wrong? Is it raising your anxiety levels? Is it making it difficult to relax? Is there somebody in your life maybe who, if particularly if it was combined, of course, with the Eight of Swords, and whom you feel that you have to be scared, that you can't let your guard down, you have to tread on eggshells around. If it's cropping up and it's making you feel uneasy, really check in with that. And perhaps another card I can identify with just a bit too much there, Ten of Wands. I have seen this both for myself and clients refer to being a workaholic. I would rather work too hard than to look at the reality of my own life as it stands right now. Again, I'm really catching on the darker sides here. Oddly, I've seen this card quite a few times now, meaning moving home. And if we look at that, if we look at the picture, we can see the meaning of that quite clearly. Yep, sometimes it just means writer's block. You've got too many ideas on the go. You've got too much you want to do. Take a break, pick one, run with it. But if you keep getting it, if you look at it and it makes you feel a bit anxious, it may be being a workaholic. It could also, particularly with the Nine of Pentacles, be touches of OCD where maybe you clean, maybe you tidy, maybe you organize instead of talking to your partner. I've seen that a fair number of times where I'm going to be honest and say it's often women would rather tidy and clean than sit and talk to their partner about things. So just check in with yourself again, particularly if it's with the devil, addictions, or the Nine of Pentacles, super disciplined, perhaps the Emperor for the same reason. Doesn't mean you are consciously or unconsciously choosing to keep yourself busy to avoid doing other things that in reality may be more important. And just one more to have a look at these, the dark sides of tarot. Justice. I always say with justice, you get what you deserve, which can bring an awful lot of humor to my life in seeing what my client makes of that. But justice at the end of the day, yes, the big name for justice is karma. But if we bring that down into everyday life, it's consequences. Now, particularly maybe if this is with the Ten of Wands or the devil, or this is when temperance becomes interesting with that addiction and narcissism, this can be somebody who is determined to avoid the consequences of their decisions. I see this an awful lot, particularly when I'm reading for a third party. I do read for third parties because I just think it's sometimes we all need to have a little bit of an understanding as to somebody's motivation. It's not about reading their secrets, it's just about understanding how that person is relating to us. Justice can often be they know maybe that they've said something wrong or they've acted in a harsh way, but they don't want to face up to the consequences of that. And particularly if the devil's there, then maybe they are avoiding. If the Knight of Wands is there, they might be being angry to avoid taking the consequences. So cheery little lot there. I could keep going. I have other cards here. I mean, I think the Nine of overwhelming swords. So to me, this is not so much depression, which would be more in the Wands or the Cups. This is about overwhelming anxiety, overthinking. Two of Swords, love this card, really positive card, one of my absolute favorites if I'm honest. But like the High Priestess, like the Hermit, this can represent being too withdrawn, staying too withdrawn to avoid doing things that you want to do. So I just felt drawn to run through some of the dark sides of some of the cards there. I'm would never suggest anybody tries to define either your mental health issues or anyone else's. I'm certainly not an expert in that, but using the tag terms associated with some mental health issues can help us to understand how in our own in its own small way tarot can reflect where we need to be extra supportive to ourselves, where maybe we need to reach out to a good friend, perhaps to the appropriate expert, or maybe just take a proper break to reground ourselves and reconnect to ourselves. So I don't use the tarot as a diagnostic tool, not for myself or clients, but rather to help me to find what I most need. So if you are doing a reading for yourself or someone else, and these cards are cropping up, and you're thinking, "Hmm, I think this is reflecting that myself or that person is having some difficulties right now." I think the best thing to do is to stop reflecting, stop predicting, take your cards, shuffle, and I would do 3 cards then for how can I best help this, either for yourself or the other person. And whatever cards you get, look for the positive. And if you're struggling with that, do take a look at my website, because I have compiled meanings for all of the cards, and I've tried to find positive help for each and every one of the cards in tarot. I hope that has been helpful for you with another